I think it's obvious what the subject of the discussion will be, right? Beards. So the first question is what type of beard oil you're using. Just kidding. Questions from the audience? Who would like to start? Let's hear it.
I have a startup here in Romania, and we will launch in the US here early summer. And we will gradually look into an office in LA.
Yeah.
I'm Swedish, based here, moving to California. What would be your advice to start off? Because I understand, I mean, my challenge to find the people there, kind of myself, with no real networks there, and so what would be, it's a broad question.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's just hard. Like even with the kind of best set of tools going in, recruiting is very hard, especially in a city where you're starting from scratch with no network. I can relate somewhat because for my last company, I started actually in Seattle and we moved the company to New York. We had a big network in Seattle, but all of our customers were in New York, so there's a strong incentive to move there. Anyways, again, I think part of it, I would kind of turn it around and say like, what is it that you strongly believe to be true about the world, and how can you tell that story? There's something my friend Nick told me last year. He's founder of another startup in the States, and he said the moment that you realize you can weaponize your mania is very, very powerful, right? And so it's like, what are the things that you're manic about? And if it is helpful, I do think that like having a foundational thing that you like truly believe, like this is like just existentially important. And then perhaps having an operational one too. We're very, very opinionated about how we work. Pivotal was, they popularized, or they were known for their obsession with pair programming, for instance, right?
Is firing harder than hiring?
Is firing harder than hiring? I mean, it's less fun, certainly. My attitude towards firing, which of course I have to do, is anytime we ever need to let somebody go, I get together with my team and co-founders operate and say, look, anytime we let someone go, this is a failure of our hiring process. It was a failure to screen, or it was a failure to properly coach the person, right? Because if somebody was just not able to perform the job that you hired them for, your screening process needs work. If somebody, or maybe they had the aptitude, but you didn't have the resources in place to actually mentor and train them and provide the structure that they needed to be successful. So again, firing is like very related to the hiring process. Every time I fire someone, I'm like, what went wrong in our hiring process that this happened? And sometimes somebody just like has a bad breakup and becomes an alcoholic, and like these are things you can't plan for. Yeah, firing is unpleasant. The thing about firing is, with hiring, it's very clear what you need to document. You document an offer letter and a salary and their stock options and their title, gender. Like there's some basic things there, and most people agree on what those things are. In firing, it's a little bit different. Do you need to document that this person is on a performance plan, that you gave them this warning, and that you told them again, that you had this meeting? The more people I fired, the more structure I've put into what that process, the more documentation I put into what that process actually looks like. And I think that's probably less a symptom of like my attitude on it changing, more than just as your company gets bigger, your liability and your risk becomes bigger. And again, this might be particular to the States, yeah, hiring there's certainly more work involved. Firing, there's certainly more work involved.
How can you find the obsession if you're working in HR and you're not the CEO of the company?
How can you find your obsession? Well, I think part of it is I would say, it's less, so I might rephrase this a little bit, because I think language maybe matters here, and I would say, if I was not the CEO of the company, how would I identify what my company's obsessions are? And I think part of that is just going to be, observation. And again, it's looking at like, what are the things that are a little like weird or eccentric about our company? Jeff Bezos is famous for banning PowerPoint from all the executive meetings. Some companies have 37 signals the company's not called Basecamp, they build a collaboration project management tool. I think they have like a no meeting policy, or like almost no meetings or something like that. But they're like a very anti-meeting company, to the point where other people look at them like, you guys are crazy about this. But for them, this works and it's authentic to who they are. So again, I would look at your company and I'd say, what are the things that we do that if you kind of like, if you're not inside of it, might look a little peculiar. And in terms of, kind of like a more of a foundational thing, like our mission and why we exist in the world, that one is hard if that's not coming from the CEO directly, to be perfectly honest. There might be reasons that individual teams show up throughout the day, but really that should be kind of channeled from the C-suite. But again, observation kind of helps here a little bit too. And sometimes executives, they do need help in terms of articulating what these things are. So if you feel like your company actually has a really strong foundational mission-based obsession, but you're not hearing it from the CEO, depending on your level in the company, I would try to work with the CEO or senior people in the company to have a conversation about clarifying what that actually is, in terms that are less watered down, and less, kind of like less corporate-y, and a little bit more crazy, for lack of a better way to put it, a little bit more obsessed. So that's kind of how I would start.
That's a great question. What would a healthy culture look like, and can you maintain it independent on of the company's size? I think Facebook is a great example of that with move fast and break things when they were at the very beginning, but when they started breaking things, like breaking the privacy that they were supposed to give to their users, things changed a bit. So how does a culture change through the lifetime and the development of a company?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I think a healthy culture, just to answer the first part of the question, is a healthy culture is the one that works for your company. So it is the one that supports like better outcomes, where better work, like higher quality work is happening and people are happier, right? So the better, and that's gonna change, that's gonna be different from one organization to another, but the better culture is the one that leads to better outcomes for that particular group of people. And in terms of how to scale it over time, I mean, that's probably like a little bit longer. Actually, I have a lot of thoughts on that, not as pointed and succinct as some of the other things that I've probably said here today. But I would say at a high level, what I've observed is people really respond well to positive reinforcement, especially in a large group setting. So one of the things that we would do is we had company values, and every quarter we would have people nominate their peers for, we call them values heroes, people who really kind of symbolized each one of these things. And it was a big deal every single quarter. Like, not only would somebody get an award, but everybody else was looking at their peers and go, how did so-and-so really demonstrate customer care this quarter, or quality, or whatever your values might happen to be. And then one person gets up and the founders of the company recognize them. They give them a trophy, you go out to dinner, And so that's just one example of like positive reinforcement. But if you do that and you do it with sincerity, and you don't kind of like do it and forget to do it, and forget to do it. Like if you do it consistently, if you do it with sincerity, what you'll start to see is people will get in line behind that pretty regularly.
And to build up on that question, how do you fit this company culture into the hiring process? How do you balance it? Like culture fit versus the skills that you're looking for versus the pressure that you have to hire fast?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is one thing I've asked people a lot, and I don't think that I don't think I've gotten a great answer from the people that I've chatted with about this. I have my own particular point of view, and I think part of it is just saying, especially when it comes to things like values, like we move fast and break things, or we don't. We're a company that is obsessed with like privacy and security and things like that. Like during the hiring process, I think you just pose somebody with a question, and oftentimes these things aren't hypothetical. So I would come up with questions of things that we actually dealt with. We really prioritize the quality of our products above all else, and so I'll say, look, a salesperson, our head of sales comes in and says that we really need to ship this feature to close this big customer, or we're going to lose them to the other company, and maybe I'm hiring for a product manager. They have control of the backlog, and say, what do we do? And they're gonna, the first thing that they're going to do usually is give you the answer they think you want to hear, right? And in which case I will challenge them on that. I'd be like, oh, you wouldn't do it. I was like, well, that's pretty interesting, you know. I mean, we're a business too, and we need to, you know, we do need to make money, and if we lose that customer to our competition, they might attract other customers to our competition. That would be really problematic for us. And so then you kind of see what happens. How quickly do they change their position? If that makes sense. Like somebody who really, like if you're screening for value, this is very difficult to do, but if you're screening for values, one thing is somebody's going to tell you usually what they think you want to hear, and then if you challenge them on it in a way that's, it's not trying to trap anybody, but you're just like really having like an intellectual, like, yeah, but here are the downsides of doing what you're proposing. Like, how quickly do they flip-flop back and forth? And if they hold their position, even if they hold the position that's opposite to what your company culture is, you're at least like, hey, well, this person has some integrity behind what it is that they actually believe. Because the first thing is like, does somebody just have integrity? And then next, it's like, okay, how aligned or misaligned are we, if that makes sense?
Totally. There was a question here before, what is your obsession?
I mean, part of it is my obsession is this. So before I started this last company, my obsession was building product and early stage product development, going from just an idea or an opportunity to product market fit, and how do you become consistent at that? It's still very hard to do, but like, how does one become able to do that more consistently? And I believe that I got good at that. But through the process of building this company, I really, really understood just the value and the essentiality of having like a strong team. And so I think now it's kind of it's this topic.
And your passion towards building prototypes and validating them, getting them to product to market fit, did this come out of your years of working with Startup Weekend, or was it before, was it during?
It was around the same time that I was doing, so I used to do a lot of stuff with Startup Weekend. And it was around the same time as that. I think what really drove it though was I had kind of worked on, I'd worked in a couple of startups that just clearly didn't have product market fit. And there might have been a lot of sizzle and good press and a lot of things like that. But I was like, God, we can raise money from good investors, we can get press. But once the money's gone and the press glow has faded, like there's nothing, you know, it's a nothing sandwich. So for me, it was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to work on things that don't matter and that aren't providing value to people. So it was kind of me like becoming very frustrated, basically.
It gets to a point where when you work with a lot of early stage startups, or you're involved in a lot of early stage product or ideas, you start to be more pushy towards like, let's stop the bullshit, let's go towards product to market fit, let's get real validation.
Yeah.
Next question, how can the interest of the new generation be maintained at the workplace? Is the career path kept in mind, or are they just interested in the next new shiny thing?
Next new shiny thing, okay. I mean, so when people are first coming out of school, so there's a great book by Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn. He's now a venture capitalist. It's called The Alliance, and what he says is we need to stop with this myth of if you were to hire me, and I'm like, yes, I'm so excited to work here at your company, and there's kind of this lie that we're agreeing to pretend isn't a lie, which is that I'm going to work for you forever, and I'm going to be happy in this job that you're giving me till the end of time, right? And so what Reid said is like, he's like, look, the marketplace has changed, the workplace has changed. What we need to start doing is thinking about an employer-employee relationship as an alliance. You have goals that you're trying to achieve, which is building a company and hiring great people to actually do the work. And I have goals in terms of like my own professional, just selfish goals, like my own professional career and acquiring new skills and getting a better job, making more money, you know, getting a nicer apartment, whatever these things happen to be. And so he said there are three types of alliances. There are rotational alliances, foundational alliances, and another one. But it's understanding, like, I think just being really clear about what the goals actually are. And so coming out of school, a lot of people are just trying to acquire some skills. They're trying to get their first apartment, maybe without a roommate for the first time ever in their life, you know? And they're gonna, and as soon as they can get some good skills, they're gonna try to flip that as fast as they can into a better job, a job that they actually probably really are interested in. And so I think part of it too is just acknowledging that that's the case, and just upfront and saying, cool, like let's just have how is that going? You ask me, like, like, hey, are you still happy with? I was going, oh, I'm getting a little bored. I've done this product manager thing for a little while now. And I actually tried this with some of my employees, and I would say, I don't think I did a good job of this, but I would ask people on the way in kind of what's important to you. People are uncomfortable telling you that because there is this power dynamic of like, they're trying to get the job. They do not want to say the wrong thing. And then even when they worked for me, I would say, when times were good, I'd still say like, look, I know that you're not necessarily going to work here forever, and that's okay. But what I would just ask is, if you're ever thinking about leaving, just tell me, let me know, because I can actually really help you. I'm your current boss. I can provide a great recommendation for you, and I can also talk to our investors and go through our investor network and maybe get you introductions for jobs in companies that you wouldn't be able to get on your own. No one ever took me up on that offer. And I think the reason why, I clearly haven't figured this out, but this is how I think about it. I think no one ever took me up on it because again, the same thing is like, I'm their boss, and to tell them, even if you think your boss is cool, and even if you think your boss understands, like, people are very wary to broach that relationship at all.
And there's a lot of acting happening there.
There is, and I totally get it, and I understand it. But I think as an employer, part of it is just acknowledging that this is the case, right? Like this is the default, and we need better tools to communicate about what everybody's goals are in a way that's a little bit more kind of like open and candid. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think that's the path.
And also from a culture perspective, you need to create that sense of trust and the safe zone where you can actually share what you have on your mind and not be judged on, okay, someone's going to leave in like 3 to 5 months. No reason to think about promoting that person or so on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's see. Many more questions popped up here. What are the guidelines of having a good breadth of a company's obsession, mission, or goal? For example, can poorly set obsession lead to myopia?
Myopia, that's just where everybody's like depressed and not feeling well, right? I need to do my vocabulary. What is a good breadth for a company's mission? I'm not sure I totally understand the question. Does anyone want to clarify? Yes. Okay. What? Yeah.
So myopia is like narrow-sighted.
Oh, okay.
So it's like if an obsession
Is
is
the
too narrow,
vocabulary
then will they be like really like they just focus on one thing, they don't see like the other problems or the other opportunities or things like that. Like for example, you can have like for Airbnb, they could be like, we want to only do houses, and then now they're doing experiences, they're doing hotel things.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's a good it's a good question. I think the Airbnb example is a pretty good one. There's the Stratechery newsletter, Ben something or other writes it. It's good actually. I pay for this newsletter. You guys should subscribe to it. Stratechery. Anyway, he has talked a lot about Airbnb, and one of the things that he said is they waited too long to get into hotels. Like fundamentally what they are, they're a travel hospitality company. They waited too long to get into the hotel game, and they gave companies like Booking.com the chance to catch up in terms of like home shares, basically, when otherwise it would have been just ripe for the taking. And so that might be an example of their obsession around community, I think in their case. Community and connecting people and connecting travelers for these totally unique experiences probably made them single-minded for too long on this one thing. The counterpoint to that though is, could they have gotten to where they had gotten without being so single-minded about it? And I kind of think the answer is no. So are they paying the price for that now? They're like slow on the draw and they're realizing that a lot of their advantage in lead has been eroded? Like absolutely. Is it going to cost them? 100%. But could they have gotten there without that single-minded focus? I'm not sure the answer is yes. So I think you do need to be a little crazy. You do need to be a little obsessed, frankly, to make any of this work. And that comes with baggage. So, but then you just have to deal with it later when you have the privilege of being able to deal with it later. So.
Next question, do you hire based on data or gut feeling? And I think that also goes with a lot of the way resumes are treated nowadays, scanned by robots, scanned by applications, and people are just turned off because they don't tick a box without ever getting a chance to talk to a real human about the potential position.
Yeah, I've never relied on any tools like that, so I can't say too much one or the other. I've always been very close to the hiring process and the top of the funnel for our hiring process. I would like to think that I hire based mostly on data. I would say, oh, it's pattern matching. I think a lot of it is kind of gut feeling. You know, I might be browsing through LinkedIn profiles, for instance, and I'm looking for certain patterns of like companies and tenure and responsibilities and things like that. And then you know, meeting people. But yeah, I think I'd have to say probably more of it is gut feeling than I would be comfortable admitting. I'm very thorough. Like, I actually believe, like, once you get into a hiring process with me, I could break it down. Actually, I would like to break it down. It's maybe, I don't know, a really long blog post or something. Like, the hiring process I put people through is extraordinarily thorough, but I still think there's a large percentage of my yes or no decision which is based on a feeling. Because there are people who maybe objectively did a little poor. Here's an example. There was a guy who, my recruiter got so pissed at me. I found this guy on Dribbble. He's a designer. Found him on Dribbble and reached out to him. He was interested in talking. He lived in the UK. He's British. And my recruiter's like, there's no way we can get this guy a visa. And I was like, yes, we can. I was like, we'll figure it out. We did. It took like 6 months. It was a giant pain in the ass. We got what's called an O1 visa, which is like, it's supposed to be like rock stars and actors. People have extraordinary talent and ability. And I was like, he's a talented designer. He should get an O1 visa. But he came in for his interview. He was also interviewing with Facebook and Intercom, who were, by the way, offering him more money. We heard some dipshit started out of New York City. And he came in and we gave him this design exercise. He's supposed to come in and present his work to other designers. And you know, people are carving hours out of their day and he shows up and it's just totally half-assed, completely half-assed. And he's also talking really fast, he's interrupting people. It was like, he didn't do, if he ever watches this, he knows that I love him dearly and I think he's one of the most talented people in the world. But he really did not do a great job interviewing. But I met him and I saw him and I was like, this person, there is so much raw talent in this person. And I was like, if we can harness that, I know that the company will be so much better for it. And there was another woman who was like this too. She came in, just total like motor mouth all over the place. But again, same thing. I was like, she is so incredibly smart and she is like so ambitious, which also means I knew she wasn't going to stick around forever. But it doesn't matter, you know. We get a few great years together. And so I made a bet on her, and it was rocky at times in the beginning. But God, I was so happy that we hired her. I never regretted that hire. Other people still probably regret that hire. Other people still probably like, oh my God, she was so hard to get along with sometimes. Which may be true. So there were people who, sorry, I know this is a long-winded answer, but I can think of several examples of people who objectively probably did poorly in a very thorough interview process, but I still hired because I saw a great potential there. So,
all right, we're 25 minutes into our 20-minute session, but we'll do some more questions. Culture is driven by the worst behavior tolerated. What is your opinion on this quote?
Culture is driven by the worst behavior tolerated. Yeah, well, I mean, maybe. So one of the things like people talk a lot about, and I know I had a slide that said culture, the Brian Chesky slide. I don't actually like culture that much. I didn't want to change his quote. So I don't think you hire based on culture. I think you hire based on values. So when I talk about hiring, it's mostly around kind of values-driven hiring and screening based on values. You know, it's not like we don't have culturally based screening questions. It's values-based. Like, what do you value more? Do you value like the business and our sales momentum, or do you value the product and the decisions that we're making and the implications of building these features in a very quick, haphazard way? So anyway, but the question probably still stands. So the healthy
question is gone.
The question is done. You think it's done? Yeah. What was it again? It was the value most tolerated. I think it's true, and a lot of this just emanates from the founders. So also too, if you're wondering what type of company this is, meet the founders. Go look at their social media profiles. What type of people are these? What are they like when the cameras are off and when they think nobody's looking? And that is going to give you, I think, a pretty good indication of how the company actually operates, not during a hiring process, but like how it actually operates day to day, week to week, month to month. So yeah, I do think there's some truth to that.
Share with us some tips and tricks that work in scaling tech teams.
Scaling tech teams. Well, I mean, there's a million different things. I mean, there's 1,000 different things that can go wrong. I mean, the default for a technology team is that it just implodes under tech debt and infighting and, yeah. So I don't, some tips and tricks. hire great people. So here's, what did we do that worked well? So again, I think one is like really emphasizing values and positive reinforcement, like making that positive reinforcement really strong, making it public. Two is making sure that the team is evenly kind of weighted in terms of like you have enough senior people to bring your bottom people up, because otherwise you're gonna end up paying for that in the long run. And I think the third thing with tech teams specifically is setting, like the power of setting goals, and this is an iceberg, but getting good at setting goals, I think, is probably one of the most important things an organization can be good at. And I resisted this initially, like, we're gonna do this by such and such date, but your ability to set goals well is your ability to predict the future. And they might be really ambitious goals, they might be fairly modest goals, but if I'm working with a startup that I've invested in or I'm advising, one of the first things I try to do is get them to like build the discipline and the muscle of being able to set goals that are specific, trying towards those goals, but most of the time failing, and then reflecting and iterating so that they become more accurate next time with their next set of goals, because they better understand their like limitations and the problems that they're going to encounter along the way. And the better that you become at being able to predict the future is going to help better inform like all of the challenges that you're going to run up against in terms of like scaling a technology team, because you're going to better understand your own limitations, and whether it's people limitations, technology limitations, budget limitations, that sort of thing. So that was maybe like an all over the board answer, but I actually think that the ability to really kind of set and be able to hit your goals, even if they're modest goals, is huge, because it just has to pull people across disciplines and across departments to kind of work together to actually make that happen.
All right. Last question. What's your favorite book and why? I'm assuming on the topic that we were discussing.
What's my favorite book and why? God, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of what I've read recently. I mean, honestly, the first book that comes to mind, this is probably a little bit of a curveball, is Oh, the Places You'll Go. It's by Dr. Seuss. In theory, it's a children's book, but I think it's a great book for grown-ups as well, too. It's very popular, at least in the United States, to give to people who are off to college or something like that. And it's kind of just about the journey of life and the excitement and the highs and lows and the dark places that you end up at times, and kind of the importance and the ability to just make it through that, make it to the other side.
And last question would be then, how can people get in touch with you? Are you writing somewhere on your blog, Medium?
I'm not writing enough. I haven't written for a while. I used to write a little bit more. I'm writing right now, but I'm not writing publicly, which I should do. The best way to get in touch with me, you can follow me on Instagram. I kind of gave up on Twitter. I have a Twitter, so you can find my Twitter. I'm at Donald DeSantis, basically across the board. Honestly, if you really want to get in touch with me, just shoot me an email. It's donalddesantis@gmail.com, and I'm happy to talk about any of these things, honestly. So, Donald DeSantis. Oh, so my name. I guess my name's not up here. Yeah. So it's just my name @gmail.com is my email address. So you can shoot me an email. If I don't get back right away, I will get back. It's just sometimes it takes a few days.
Thanks so much for coming. Thanks so much for your time. Thank you everyone for attending this session.